Here. Thank you everyone for joining. I'm Dustin Brackett. I'm the CEO and founder of HIVE Strategy and HIVE Hub. And this is part of our ongoing webinar series. Really excited to have Mary Cate Spires with us today. So Mary Cate is the founder of Harley James Consulting and focuses on using data and research to support clients in setting and measuring and kind of achieving those goals that they set for their organizations. Today, we're going to be talking about measuring ROI and kind of really that missing piece for a lot of marketers of like, how do I actually like prove my value? Like we're doing all these cool things, but how do I really assign ROI to it and kind of make it valuable for some of the C-suite and clients that don't necessarily understand innately the return on that investment? Welcome, Mary Cate.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. All right, let's roll. I am going to hopefully share my screen. I have notes and tabs and going to try to make this as interactive as possible, so bear with me. Please feel free to chat or use the Q&A while I'm talking. I don't love monologuing, so happy to kind of stop and answer any questions as they come up. But yeah, so like we said, we're going to be talking all about data and research and metrics to evaluate digital marketing performance and increase ROI. So Dustin already gave me a great introduction, so I don't need to go any further, but I will add, I am a dog mom to Johnny and June, who you may see, they probably are Harley, Johnny and June. You might see one or two walking around. They usually leave me alone, but just as a heads up. All right, so let's kick it off. I want to ask everybody a question. Please feel free to post in the chat, but who here loves wasting money? Maybe other people's money, probably not your own. All right, we got some chats. No, yeah. I will waste other people's money. I don't like wasting any money. So it is so easy to waste money. And I really believe that when you're not using data and metrics, you are you're wasting money because you have no idea where it's going, what it's doing. So we're going to try really hard by the end of this session to make sure we're not wasting at least our marketing dollars. I won't make any judgment on personal dollars. All right, so to kick us off, meet Jimmy. Jimmy is the best car I've ever owned. There's a picture of me right when I got him. I think I was 19 years old, Jeep Wrangler, absolutely in love. I moved away to New York and left him at home. When I came back to South Carolina, I totaled Jimmy with my husband in the front seat. He still says I tried to kill him and won't let me drive anymore, which is just rude. But I was super new to the workplace. I had no idea how you're supposed to buy a car. And so just like any other young person would do, I asked my parents and I did exactly what they told me to. And no offense to my parents or their judgment, but that bit me in the butt. I ended up with the world's biggest lemon of a car. This car went to the shop not once, not twice, but 3 times for lack of air conditioning in South Carolina, which is just wrong. And it also had multiple recalls. And most recently, it decided I didn't need to use my driver's side window, which doesn't make for great drive-through experiences. So I'm really happy to report that I have rid myself of this lemon car. I've been a while since we lost Jimmy, but I tell you this story to really prove the fact that by listening to other people and other people's opinions, instead of looking at the research and the data, you can waste money. And one of the easiest ways to waste money in marketing is inefficiency. So inefficiency in marketing is the easiest way to waste money. In a study of over 1,000 marketers worldwide by Recruit and Marketing, 26% or respondents reported 26% of their budget is wasted on ineffective channels. 26%. That is mind-boggling to me. When you have, even if you have a really small budget, 26% is a huge, huge amount. So how can we as marketers be good stewards of our budget? Through my experience, I have come up with 7 steps to improving marketing ROI and making sure that we're not wasting money. That first step begins with the end in mind and really understanding your customers, understanding who they are and what they want from you as a business. The second step, still in research, is knowing what your competitors are doing. What are they doing well? What are they doing not so well? What are your customers experiencing when they visit your competitors? From there, you're going to look at your existing data and performance. It is so important to make sure you know where you are so that you know how to get to where you want to be. From there, we get to become scientists, and we're going to use all of that data and research to identify that one main goal. From there, we're going to hypothesize how we can get to that goal with some strategy and tactics. Test it, ideally, for about 3 months. From there, you're going to evaluate that performance. Did it work? Did it not work? Do we need to try again? If it worked, fantastic. Go back to step number 4, find a new goal to work on. And if it didn't work, keep testing until you're able to really, meet that goal. So today we are going to focus mainly on steps 3 and 4 of this process. So I believe that step 3, with looking at your existing data and performance, is one of the things that marketers don't do enough. It's not maybe that we don't want to, but maybe we don't have time. And so we kind of have to force ourselves to pay attention to that data. And then I want to talk about looking at that data and how that actually translates to goals and how we're going to be able to make a difference there. So you all willingly came to this webinar. So hopefully you are not thinking of falling asleep at the fact of data. I get it. Data can be super boring. When I was in school, I didn't want to go anywhere near a spreadsheet or math or anything of it. But I finally figured out that data really is almost like true crime, which I love. I watch anything you could possibly imagine, read all of it too. And it's really about solving a mystery, and that data can help us do that. So a little bit more about me. I have been doing digital marketing for, about 11 years now. You can kind of see my progression here. But a few years ago, I was lucky enough to be working at an agency and was also doing some small business work on the side as well. I then was able to go out completely on my own, thanks to an amazing client, which I'll actually tell you more about here in a little bit. And life was great. I finally got to go out on my own. I was doing everything I thought I wanted. I was my own boss. Life was amazing. But every day seemed to get harder and harder, and I couldn't really figure out why I was unhappy. And I couldn't talk to friends and family about it because I had everything I said I wanted. Why would I be upset? And so finally, one Saturday, I was working and could barely bring myself to do even the smallest of tasks. And so I kind of sat there with myself, and I said, enough is enough. We need to figure out what's going on. And so I sat there and I really looked at the data of my thoughts and feelings, and I asked myself, like, what's going on here? And I came to realize that while I loved helping small businesses with their marketing, I was not getting joy out of the implementation. I wasn't the right person to be doing the implementation. I had more fun in strategy. And so with that, I ended up selling my company and completely rebranding. I wrote a book. I started speaking, writing, and consulting for clients. And I really was able to find that joy again, because I'm still able to help small businesses like I wanted to, but it's in a way that makes more sense for me. And so I tell you all of this because I feel like it really illustrates that, you have to know where you are in order to get to where you want to be. So we all know where we want to be, right? We want all the leads, all the revenue, life's amazing. But we don't really know how we're going to get there without taking the time to sit and reflect on where we are. So that is where we're going to really dive into our existing data and performance. And you might be thinking, there are so many metrics out there. How the heck do I know what to look at? Where do we even begin? So to help, I have created a benchmark and goal tracker that I use for all of my clients, have used for a very long time, and it helps me evaluate and benchmark all of my data and really understand where I am and help set those goals. So I'm going to spend the next few minutes really going through this. It is available at that website. I know we're all on a computer and you'll get these slides, but I put a QR code in there as well. It's completely free. It's also completely customizable. So please feel free to go grab it. And we are going to get a little interactive. So bear with me while I get out of this screen. Oops, there we go. That'll be fun later when we go back to it. All right. So this, when you get to your benchmark and goal tracker, it'll look like this. There is a front page that really talks through how to use it. And I even have a little video walking through everything we're going to walk through right now. One big tip I have for you, which is a very unpopular opinion for most people, is take the time and pull this data by hand. There are so many dashboarding tools out there right now. HubSpot is one of them. It's amazing. I love my dashboards. I look at dashboards every single day. But for this process, it's really going to help you to pull all these numbers by hand. You're going to start making connections as you're pulling these numbers, and that's going to go a long way in helping to set your goal. So you'll actually start on this tracker on the website traffic page. So the website traffic, as we've already talked about, I'm going to inbound. I've been using HubSpot for 11 years before it even was all that it is now. And so this is built around the HubSpot original sources. But of course, like I said, it can be completely customized, and you can use Google Analytics for the web traffic or whatever you're using. I just really like HubSpot. So here you will be able to take your monthly traffic for each source by month. So if when you're pulling it, it will start doing some things for you. So it'll grab your average. It'll also do month over month once you edit the formula right there. And so I really like month over month growth to be able to see, what's happened. You can even look at quarter over quarter or year over year if you'd like. And then average. There are a lot of businesses that can be affected by seasonality. And so by being able to see the average, you can have a good idea if maybe, the last few months have been like kind of okay, or you just had a big hike and then leveling back out. It will also pull this into a nice little spreadsheet or graph for you, which is always great for stakeholders who do not care about all of these individual numbers as much as we might. So a quick note here with attribution. There are a lot of things out there about attribution. It's always something I attend when I go to conferences. But right now, there's no perfect way for attribution. Digital marketing has gotten us way closer than we've ever been. But my philosophy when it comes to attribution is pick one and stick with it. So I believe in original source. So the original thing that brought someone to your website. You can also look at latest source. You can do multi-touch, tons of different things. But for this practice, I've found great success at looking at original source. What was that first interaction they had with us? So like I said, pick whatever you'd like, just stick with it so that your data stays the same. And then if you are using HubSpot, you would be able to just, as long as your website is connected, you would be able to pull all of this from the traffic analytics tool. Next up, we have leads. So I define leads as anyone who gives us their information. So we're right at the top of the funnel. So leads, again, if we're using HubSpot, very easy to pull. It's going to tell us right in that traffic report. But if you're using Google Analytics, you can look at setting up conversions to be able to track leads that are coming in. Again, I really like to be able to look at this by source, so you can understand what's driving in the most leads, what might be going up or down, and then it's really going to help when we get all the way to conversion as well. I'm going to put a couple of things in here so that you'll be able to see what it looks like as we keep going along. So next in our funnel, we want to look at marketing qualified leads. Marketing qualified leads for me are someone who fit your target audience and have interacted with your content, but have not raised their hand to talk to sales. So these are people who could potentially be customers down the line. We want to spend time talking to them because they could eventually convert, but we're not going to send them to a salesperson just yet because they're not ready. I really love looking at marketing qualified leads. This is where we can really start to understand what traffic sources are bringing in those qualified leads right off the bat. Sales qualified leads. So we're looking at people who fit that target audience and have raised their hand to talk to sales. So we are handing them off to sales. In a marketer's world, job is done, life is easy. I have a fun story about that here in a little bit. But sales qualified leads, at least in my world, I don't know about you guys, but it's the end all be all. I'll have a client say we need more leads, and they mean we need more sales qualified leads. They don't really care about anything else. And so for those clients, I focus those main goals all around sales qualified leads. Next is opportunities. So opportunities is something in that HubSpot tracks as a life cycle stage, but I personally hadn't been using it until about 3 years ago. And so I personally define opportunities as a qualified sales qualified lead. So what that looks for my clients is if they've raised their hand to talk to sales, they're not immediately disqualified for some reason like location or price, and they're actively engaging with sales. So no ghosting. Opportunities are really a metric that has helped me come a long way in making those phone calls about more leads stop. A lot of times people don't really need more leads. They just need more qualified leads. Last but not least, we have our customers, which of course we all want at the end of the day. We will be able to grab these again if you're using HubSpot for full funnel reporting. All of this, especially sales qualified lead opportunities and customers, if you are using a CRM that's not integrated with your marketing system, I highly recommend doing that ASAP. That full funnel reporting is going to go a very, very long way in your tracking. You're really almost flying blind if you're not able to see if those leads that you're driving are actually converting. So once you've filled all of this out and taken some time, the spreadsheet will actually do some work for you. So it will take all of those numbers and pull conversion rates for you. I personally prefer to look at conversion rates above anything else when it comes to my data. So just to kind of quickly walk through these: visitor to lead rate, how many people of all of the visits you get on your website, how many actually become the percentage that becomes leads, how the percentage of leads that become marketing qualified leads, the percentage of marketing qualified leads to become sales qualified leads, and so on, all the way down to opportunity to customer. You can also look at lead to customer and visit to customer to really get a good idea of that whole funnel conversion for you. So obviously you watched me type in fake numbers. 326% lead to customer rate would be amazing, but I don't think it's very accurate. But these are really where I start to ask myself some questions. So like I said, when you're pulling metrics by hand, you can start to get curious and you'll find yourself being like, I wonder why this is like that. While you're doing this, write those questions down. Don't get sidetracked until the very end and then go and deep dive into all of that. I can get lost in data, but for this process, we want to make sure we're gathering all of that data first before we go on our deep dives. And I am grabbing my slides real quick to make sure I'm not missing anything. And then I will show you goals. So there are a few other metrics that you can be tracking when it comes to your data. So we've gone over most of these. Another thing I really like to look at that is not in this spreadsheet, but it's cost per. So I like to look at cost per sales qualified lead, cost per opportunity, and cost per customer. That can go a really long way in understanding, what you're spending for each of these things, which will lead us back to ROI here in just a little bit. One other quick thing is on all of these definitions. So honestly, whatever these definitions mean to you and your organization is perfectly fine, as long as you're all on the same page. So it's very important to define each of these leads life cycle stages and have commonality among them. So if I'm talking about an MQL, someone in my organization should know exactly what that means. That way you're all speaking the same language and you can be sure that everyone's going towards those common goals. And that goes all the way down even to customer. I work with a senior living company and customer is pretty self-explanatory, but something like, are they a customer when they put a deposit down or are they a customer when they move in is a conversation that's worth having with stakeholders to, again, make sure you're all on that same page. Lastly, when it comes to metrics, don't forget about calls, chats, and bots analytics. So a lot of times you might be tracking calls, you might have live chat, or you might even have bots now. AI is coming fast and furiously at us, and those might live in a different place. So it's really easy to forget to look at those metrics. I know personally, in my experience, that calls can be very high intent conversions. So a call could be someone who is trying to become an SQL right away. And so if you're not tracking where you're getting qualified calls from, you could easily be making decisions without the full picture. So I always like to remind people to make sure that we're looking at everything and not just living in one silo. And so we've already talked through conversion rates here. And so now I want to talk about the goal tool of this. So again, once you've filled all of this out, you're going to have a lot of information. My favorite tab is the goals tab. So here you're going to be able to set your time period and then set that almighty customer goal. So let's say I really want 15 customers in 1 month, which is very aggressive of me. But then I'm going to take all of these conversion rates, probably my average, and type in for each of these lines so that I understand what my goals should be for all of these metrics. So let's say my opportunity to customer rate is 48%. It's going to tell me that it's going to continue to update with the actual numbers needed. SQL to opportunity we'll say is 30. Just pull some numbers in here so we can kind of start to see. And then we'll say this is 2%. Okay, so once you've filled all of this out, the odds are the numbers might be a little scary. So for 15 customers with my current conversion rates, I'm going to need 37,000 website visitors in this month. I might not be getting 37,000 website visitors, and that might not be the easiest thing for me to adjust. So what I like to do is I come in here and I think, okay, well, my sales qualified lead opportunity rate has been going down. So what if I'm able to get that higher? Okay, my website visitors are starting to look a little bit more manageable. So by playing with these numbers, you'll kind of start to understand what goal you need to focus on. And so this is what brings us to step 4 of the process, which is identifying that one main goal. And so we all have competing priorities. There's a lot that's going on. If you have clients, if you work anywhere, people are asking a lot from you. So for this process, I really recommend just focusing on one thing in 3 months that we're going to try to change. So we just looked at it, SQL to opportunity rate. Okay, I want to get that higher. How can I do that? So there are a couple of key types of goals that I want to walk through. The first is brand awareness. So brand awareness is notoriously difficult to track. It's actually my least favorite, but it's very important, so we can't forget about it. So if you are seeing that you need more website traffic or leads aren't converting very well on your website, then it's likely that you might need some brand awareness. So you need more people to know who you are, and you need more people to associate who you are with what you do, so that when they come to your website, they're getting what they're looking for. So a few ways you can track this: website traffic. So if you're getting more traffic to your page, more people, more brand awareness. You can track social mentions. So if people are mentioning your brand more, you have a good understanding that more people are interacting with it, more people are seeing it. This same can be said for social listening. So mentions when someone actually tags your business, but there's a lot of things out there where they might just be talking about your business on the internet. And it's always great to know that. Highly recommend social listening as if nothing else, a way to make sure that people are happy with you as a business. You can also look at your social reach, organic or paid. So this is how many people you're getting in front of, that you're getting your brand in front of. Impressions. I always think of billboards when I think of impressions, and I notoriously do not like billboards. But impressions are how many times someone sees your ad. So if I see a post 10 times, that's 10 impressions, but 1 reach. So that's really just helping you understand how many times that piece of content is getting in front of anyone versus just one person. 2 other ways that I don't think people look at a lot when it comes to brand awareness and tracking brand awareness is branded keyword traffic. So in Google Search Console, you can actually see how you're ranking for your branded keywords and how many people are coming to your website from those keywords. If you're starting to see that those are going up, that means more people are searching for your brand, and ideally your brand awareness has gone up. The other place, if you are a local business, you should hopefully please have a Google Business Profile. In your Google Business Profile, the analytics portion will actually show you how many people have found your page through branded keywords. So this will help you understand if people are searching for your brand or searching for what you offer, and help you compare, how people are finding you. So if there's a ton of people finding you for what you do, that's fantastic. That means there's definitely a need in your area. But if you don't have a lot of people searching for your business by name, you might want to consider some brand awareness tactics and strategies to help increase that brand recognition. So putting goals and KPIs to brand awareness, I've talked about it a little bit, but you're going to have your I'm so sorry. So the next goal is qualified web traffic. So you might be seeing you're getting a ton of web traffic, but it's not converting. So again, that could be a brand awareness issue, or it could be a where your marketing issue. Maybe you're not driving the right people to your business. So if your visitor to lead conversion rate is funky, that is one thing to consider is, are you driving qualified web traffic to your page? Lead generation, we all want leads, at least in my experience. And so again, it can be really easy to default to, we need more leads, but actually take it a step further. Do you need more people giving you their information? Do you have plenty of leads, but they're not converting to MQLs or SQLs? So maybe your conversion rates are really high, but you don't have a lot of leads. That's when you really do want to focus on those lead generation tactics. My favorite is lead nurturing. In my experience, typically those conversion rates are what could use the most massaging and love. And so if you're seeing that your lead to MQL rate or your MQL to SQL rate is going down or isn't exactly what you'd like it to be, definitely consider looking at lead nurturing tactics and understanding how you can help people through that funnel more. Again, as marketers, once we have gotten our SQL, it's very easy to wipe our hands of that lead. We did our job. It's your turn, sales. But in a perfect world, you can actually be helping sales. You create all of this amazing marketing content. Sales can use that. Sales is going to know what questions people are asking. You can really help each other. And so if you're seeing that your SQL to opportunity rate is not very high, that is definitely something that marketing can help with. That means we are not driving highly qualified SQLs. So maybe we don't have good SQL criteria. Maybe we aren't advertising in the right places. Dig deeper into that and try to find out the root to that problem. And then, of course, opportunity to customer rate. That is where that sales enablement can help. How can you help sales convert more people from opportunity to customers? And that can be very collaborative relationship, and just, how can we help? We're all in this together. We all want to get more customers. And like I said, as I take a deep breath, please feel free to ask questions in the chat or the Q&A while I continue through all of this. So we started today talking about ROI. So obviously you're probably asking why I haven't said it yet. So I really like the nitty-gritty details, because that's what's actually going to drive these overall key performance indicators. But our bosses, our clients, our key stakeholders, they might not want the nitty-gritty details, which is completely understandable. They have a lot going on. So there's two key ways I like to look at overall key performance. So the first, everybody knows ROI, return on investment. So we are trying to understand exactly how much we got out of how much we spent. This is a fantastic way to measure the success of your marketing efforts. I have experience in some industries where the ROI can get extremely high extremely quickly, just because it's large buying purchases. That can almost make your numbers feel off or fake, or they're so big, what the heck is this even telling me? And so that can kind of cloud a little bit of that judgment, or it could even make you say, oh my gosh, we're doing so well, we don't need to do anything else. So what I really like to look at, and I touched on it once before, but is the cost per acquisition. So I like to look at this for lead, MQL, SQL, opportunity, customer. I want to know how much it actually costs me to get one lead or to get one customer. You likely have a good idea what the lifetime value of your customer is. So by understanding how much it's costing you to get that customer, you're understanding really what that ROI is. But it's a little bit easier of a number for everyone in your organization to understand and grasp. I also work with some multi-location companies, and when you have locations or clients that have different budgets, it can be really easy to get blinded by, oh, they got 100 leads, or oh, they got 10 leads. Well, actually, the 100 leads cost us $100 a lead, but the 10 leads cost us $10 a lead. So actually, location B is performing better than location A. So I kind of think of it as a great equalizer to really put everyone on the same playing field. And the same can be said with conversion rates, but it helps us just look at everything at an equal place instead of being blinded by those really, really big or really small numbers. So to say again, 7 steps to improving marketing ROI. So you're probably wondering, does this work? And how did I come up with this? And I can't say it does work. I'll tell you the story of how, this came to be. So I had a client, the same client that I was lucky enough to be able to become a full-time consultant with, and go off on my own. And they're in senior living, if you can't tell by me talking about senior living. But in 2020, something called COVID hit. And as you can imagine, not many people were searching for senior living. It was a scary time for a lot of reasons. And so they even shut down to move-ins. I started doing crisis communication, but at one point they had to open their doors back up. I had to move back to my real job and start helping get more leads. So every day my phone was ringing from everyone who could get a hold of me. Mary Cate, we need more leads. Mary Cate, we need more leads. I was getting so frustrated. I actually told someone at one point that outside of hiring a skywriter and knocking on doors, there's nothing else I could do from them. And that was probably not the best thing to say, but I was frustrated because I take the success very seriously. And I was overwhelmed because everyone was telling me their ideas for how we could get more leads. Maybe we should try billboards. Maybe we should try direct mail. Have we heard of geofencing? What about that? And so I was just completely inundated and confused. And I really just didn't know what to do. And I felt defeated because we weren't getting enough leads, according to everyone. So I spent 2 weeks with my head buried in a Google Sheet. I turned on my autoresponder on my email, so you know I was serious. And I pulled data completely manually. This client did not have a CRM connected to HubSpot at the time. So I manually pulled every single customer or lead out of the CRM to see what actually happened to them. A lot of pivot tables later, a lot of source analysis later, and I came to the conclusion that it wasn't that we didn't have enough leads, it was that we didn't have enough qualified leads. So I started tracking opportunities because I really wanted to see what was going on between that handoff from sales qualified lead to customer. So by adding that extra stage of opportunity, it opened so much for me to be able to see. By adding that in, pulling all that data, I was able to see that our paid search was driving a lot of SQLs, but very few opportunities. So that SQL to opportunity rate was very low. So I decided that was the first thing I was going to focus on. I identified that as my main goal. That's something I can change. I can pilot new ads. I can try different things and see if it works. My hypothesis was we needed a new ad partner. So I found one and piloted them at one location. It went pretty well. I let it go for about 3 months, tested and evaluated, and it was going really well. So then we rolled it out to 3 locations. And then eventually we rolled it out to all of our locations. And I can tell you, I do this every month, every day for my clients, but this made a huge difference by just focusing on one thing at a time. And my phone really doesn't ring that much anymore. It always will, but not every day, which is definitely not as defeating as it once was. And to put some numbers behind this, when I started this process, the sales qualified lead to opportunity conversion rate was 32%, and it ended at 52% today. So this is something we're always driving. And now we've moved on to the next thing. So this is a process you can continually be doing to really drive those results for your clients and for your customers. So by following this process or process similar, by pulling your data, understanding your research, you can have less wasted spend, lower cost per customer, and higher qualified leads. The answer to your marketing problems is living in your data. You just have to go find it. And trust me, it's in there. So you might be asking yourself, now what? Download my benchmark tracker or create one of your own. You don't have to download mine, but it does give you a good place to start. Start pulling your existing performance. If you don't have any existing performance, start tracking it today. We need a place to start. Be curious and ask yourself why metrics are the way they are. Determine your biggest opportunity for improvement and set that as your main goal. Create a hypothesis and test it. Use the results to make further strategic decisions, and rinse and repeat. And there we have questions. I'm really excited to not be monologuing anymore. Or if there was, oh wait, here we go.
That was great. Thanks so much, Mary Cate. I think that gave everyone probably a lot to think about.
There's a lot of information.
Yeah, and when you start with manually pull data, you probably scared a few people.
It's fair. It's fair. Like I said, it's a hot take, an unpopular decision, and I'm not saying to do that every day or even every month, but maybe once a quarter, or maybe when you hit a point like I did, where you're just banging your head up against a wall, it is so completely worth it as much as you go cross-eyed.
Yeah, it is one of those things that when you're automating that process, you don't really think about the context behind it. It's just numbers at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And I love HubSpot too, because you're even able to, like, when you have that question, you ask yourself why, you can actually go and see the journey that someone took to be able to get that answer.
Absolutely. So we have a few questions coming in. If you're not currently tracking metrics, which should you begin with?
Oh my goodness. I would say if you're not tracking anything at all, please get a CRM. That is probably the most important thing, to know that you're getting customers. But then, yeah, Google Analytics. Obviously, we've talked about it a lot. We're big fans of HubSpot. I think we all are here, but it's a great place to be able to have all of your metrics in one place instead of having to piecemeal it all together. But I think the first step is really understanding where your existing customers are and where they're coming from.
Yep, absolutely. I think it is a trap to just say, like, everyone should be focusing on these same goals or these same metrics. And I think that a lot of people just kind of lean into the best practices, right? Of, oh, well, we need to track this exact sales funnel or this like lead life cycle. But I think you've got to kind of adjust that for your business, and like you were doing with your spreadsheet of like figuring out, okay, where are we going to focus our efforts? And it's going to be different for everyone, right?
Yep, absolutely. And that, I always say, we can get so trapped into benchmarks. Again, I swear I have other clients, but I take it back to the senior living industry, where people get so bogged down into metrics, they're not even looking at their own performance. They're just like, oh, well, the benchmark says this, so I should be here. Okay, well, maybe not for your business. Maybe, you're in a different market and you're just not going to get that same level of leads. Like, that's okay. I always tell the partners I work with, I just want to go up and to the right. I don't need to hit that perfect number. I just want to be continually getting better.
Yep, absolutely. Here's an interesting one. So you mentioned you hate billboards. I'm going to co-sign that. I do too. I've heard this sort of thing in a previous role, where billboards do earn interactions, but they're impossible to really prove value on. How do you deal with similarly broad tactics in the digital space?
Yeah, so it's a joke in my family how much I hate billboards. They talk about it to get a rile out of me. And listen, depending on your business, billboards, TV ads could probably be very helpful, but it really comes down to knowing who your customers are, knowing what your competitors are doing. And in my book, I actually do the math. comparing the cost of a billboard in Columbia, South Carolina to where I live to Facebook ads for the exact same amount of impressions, and it is incredibly cheaper. And so I like to say display ads, Facebook ads are very similar to billboards, where the goal is that brand awareness, which is extremely difficult to track. And so you kind of have to accept that a little bit. You have to understand you're not going to know 100%, but those things I talked about earlier, website traffic, branded keywords, social, the impressions of the ads, you kind of have to determine why you're doing it and what metric you're going to be able to track to associate with that. But brand awareness is the hardest thing, and it's such a necessary evil.
It is. I think also, though, just because of the digital landscape, it's not as abstract as like a billboard, right?
Yes.
Where with a billboard, you're kind of relying on data provided by the billboard company that says, we have this many cars that pass by every day. Here's what their general demographics are. And hopefully they noticed the billboard and weren't looking at their phone. Right. It is much more abstract when it's kind of in real life. At least with some of those display ads and things like that you've mentioned, we can start to track engagement with those. And we have firm data on like this was presented, right?
Yes, exactly. Like you have click-through rate. You can actually have someone take a next step instead of trying to remember a phone number on a billboard or going to Google you. So digital, yes, even though they're broader, you have so much more tracking. You're going to have a much better idea. And again, I love just the fact that you can lead someone to a next step right there instead of, like hoping they remember what they saw.
Right. Next one. What's your strategy for connecting the value of operational marketing metrics to business metrics, opportunities, customers for your clients?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say that they're going to inform each other, right? If your operational is going well, then your business metrics are going to be going well. And it's really easy for stakeholders or clients to not really like focus on those operational things. I have a client who asked me one time what I do all day. And I had a lot of things to tell her, but by tracking those internal metrics, you can make sure that you're helping get those business metrics. So you might be able to see some correlation between, how many emails you send out versus how many customers are coming in. So I think I can't say your clients might really, really care, but being able to educate them on, why you're doing things and, why it matters that we're tracking that is definitely like what I would recommend.
Yeah. And one thing I think that I'm going to be touching on at my session at Inbound is really diving into the qualitative metrics, not just the quantitative metrics. And I think that there is a little bit of a disconnect between like the marketing side and kind of the business goals, where we've kind of fallen into this very quantitative rabbit hole of like just more is better.
Tell me about it.
But I think kind of really diving into, okay, how are we actually moving those people in and supporting them through their journey to become sales qualified leads, to become opportunities, rather than just tracking number of conversions or clicks or anything like that.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'll call those like impressions sometimes can be a vanity metric because you'll have all these impressions, but what does that actually mean for your bottom line?
Right.
And that's why I love to look at those conversion rates, because you can get distracted by more or big numbers or small numbers, but those conversion rates will actually show you that quality.
Yep. How do you drive home the importance of data and analytics to a client who only cares about checking things off a task list?
It's so funny. I want a client that doesn't care about performance. That's a lie. But I think, being able to help them understand that they're investing, whether it's even just time, we're all investing something, and it's important to be able to see what we're getting out of that. And quarterly check-ins where you're looking at all of that reporting and you're really driving it. I have some vendors that I work with, I don't ask them for reporting because I'm looking at it myself, but the client knows I'm looking at it, or the partner knows I'm looking at it, so they're not super worried. But I would say, I mean, especially when it's a client, I would really try to make the time to have those education moments and prove your worth, so that you're making a difference for them and showing your value.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it is one of those things that I think a lot of marketers, or even like a lot of like C-suite, can get lost in the numbers, and they're not really sure like what this data is telling me. Like, what is the story behind this data, rather than just here's data. And I think that's where a lot of people get lost or start to kind of tune out or gloss over reporting. And so I think really focusing on building a story around it, and like pulling out and inferring like, what does this mean, rather than just like, here's this data.
Yeah, no, that's so well said. And don't just send over a dashboard.
Right.
Have a conversation, or at least send over a paragraph of what it's actually saying.
Yeah.
That's always been a pet peeve for me. When people I'm like, well, why is it like this? I need to know the why behind it. That's
Yep.
going to go a long way.
I think a lot of people fall into that. Oh, well, here's the reporting. Good luck. Whether it is like internally or with an agency or anything like that, I think far too many people fall into that trap. What's the best way to gain buy-in from clients to care about the reporting?
I think, when you can tie, I personally think when you have that full funnel reporting, you can tie it to the bottom line. That's going to make people care more. Again, when you're just reporting on impressions and you're saying hundreds of thousands of people saw this, okay, well, what does that actually mean? What is that doing for me? And so by being able to tell that full story and say, look, you spent this much and this is how much you actually got out of it, or this is how much is in your pipeline. That's where people are going to start to really care about those reports and those numbers.
Yep. A little bit along those same lines, we just got one in the chat of, well, marketing does support business objectives. How do you prove things are moving in the right direction to leaders or even salespeople using qualitative metrics? Sometimes quantitative metrics do not seem to reflect an ROI to them, especially if it doesn't just return hot leads.
I know we need more leads. There's definitely some education there. Like I said, I had the client ask me what I do all day. I do a lot. And so by being able to, I like to be as transparent as possible in strategy and saying, we're doing this for this goal. Just like I talked about my main goal. I want to improve this conversion rate so that we have more qualified leads coming in. And they are quantitative, but those conversion rates are really what's going to start to tell that story, at least for me in my experience. And maybe it's a weekly recap at the end of the week that's just, we did all of this and this is what we're seeing, and being able to be transparent in that you are working hard and being collaborative on what those goals should be. Like I said, when you all are speaking the same language, you're all working towards that same goal, you can work together. Maybe sales aren't closing the leads. Why? Let's dive into that. We're not blaming anyone. Is it, is it a messaging issue? Is it a follow-up issue? We don't know. And so by being able to have those kind of harder conversations, that's going to really, provide both business value and, your own value.
Absolutely. I think that it is a process. And like, I think that's part of maybe what sales doesn't necessarily understand. Like it is a situation that we as marketers have to really be informed of, like, okay, what was the quality here? Like, is this a good fit? Talk to us, like get that feedback from sales so that we can adjust. And I think that for some reason, somehow we still kind of live in our own silos, right? Marketing and sales live in their own silos. And it's like, oh, I'm going to throw leads over and Well, I hope they close that, that'd be cool. I'm on to the next. And I think that really establishing that transparent line of communication is going to help us as marketers really understand like, oh, that lead maybe wasn't ready for a sales conversation yet. How can we nurture them better? Because I think with those quantitative goals, we do fall into this trap of like marketing is held to like this certain number of leads that they've, in their SLAs, they're going to provide to sales. And so it turns into this like, as soon as somebody converts, they're being thrown over there because they need that tick on, okay, we got one more lead over to sales, but maybe they weren't really ready for that.
Yeah. I mean, it's age old, I can get you 100 leads tomorrow. I can't say they're going to be good. So
Right.
it's really having that conversation of, what makes a good lead. I love close reasons. I love being able to pull reports by close reason and, location. Maybe you're a local business and you're getting leads that are not close to you. That's usually something that's pretty easy to connect. And so if you're tracking that, you can have those conversations.
Yep. Close reason is a great comment there. I think that's one area that HubSpot, I don't think necessarily sets you up to succeed. So creating your own closed lost and closed won reasons more as a drop down is going to give you better reporting than that open text field.
Always use drop downs for stuff like that, please.
Awesome. Well, Mary Cate, it has been great having you on. Thank you for sharing that. In our follow-up, we'll make sure to include the link to the spreadsheet from Mary Cate. Go download it, like start tracking these things, start proving your value because it's there. It's just a matter of putting the data in front of your teams. Thanks again. If you're at Inbound, Mary Cate will be there. HIVE, myself will all be there as well. HIVE does have a booth. It'll be near the HubSpot HQ. Stop by, come see us. And I am also speaking on Friday morning. So register for that session and hope to see you there. Thanks, everyone.